we're friends with all these clubs and the players and directors of rugby, but sometimes there's big stories breaking, be it, a sales shark, usually a sales shark story. And I know those guys really well, and I really like Steve Diamond, but I know I'm okay, I'm going on air and I'm going to have a row with someone, but for the sake of journalism, I have to do this, and they respect that and I respect that. So that sometimes can make me a bit anxious.
Hi guys, welcome to Fab Rugby. You join me, Craig, and Will from Young Rugby as we start a brand new series ahead of the new season. In this series, we'll be looking behind the scenes at some of the people that you might not know about.
Yeah, in this series, we'll be having a look at some behind-the-scenes players and staff from all over the Premiership to find out what they do on a day-to-day basis. Welcome back to Fab Rugby, and what a treat we have for you today. I am joined by Craig from Fab, but also I'm joined by Craig from BT Sport. It's Craig Doyle. Hello, Craig. How are you? You well?
Good. Really good. Thanks. Yeah, really good.
Awesome. Well, this sort of series looks at people behind the scenes and behind rugby. And today we're talking to you about your role as a presenter for BT Sport. If you wouldn't mind just kicking us off with sort of what does an average week leading up to a game look like for you? What does that what does that entail?
So usually it will be a 2-game weekend for me, if not 3. I do 3 in Europe, but it was a Gallagher Premiership weekend. Say I had a Friday game and a Sunday game. A Friday game is a 45-minute build-up. So we like to treat that 45 minutes essentially like a magazine show, a rugby magazine show. So my first conversations about that would probably happen on the Monday. And I'd kind of be thinking on the way home on a Sunday, what do we not cover? And then you think about the teams and you look for stories. Obviously, there's 12 teams in the Prem, but at only one time you can show 2 teams, right? So you've got to find something within that game that gets all the neutrals interested. A little storyline. It can be something as small as someone playing against their old club. It can be someone coming back for injury, a new signing, someone trying to get over something. It can be a hatred. It can be brothers. Whatever it is, you find a little story. And a Monday is usually spent kind of thinking about that. And what can I do that's different? What can I do that is just going to make people look up and listen? And make us be kind of BT. I just don't want to be churning out stats and showing old tries and old scrums. I want us to be coming at it from a different angle. And that's what Monday's usually spent doing. And then I'll go, oh, I got it. And I get very excited and I'll ring a producer and he'll go, that's terrible. I'll go, that's a good one. And then the producer and I would spend kind of Monday, Tuesday kind of figuring out, okay, and I'll go, well, let's do an opening link, kind of walking through here to set, because what you want to do is set a storyline, essentially. You want to treat it like a 3-hour program, not just like a build up, a game, a post-match. You want to follow a narrative all the way through. So when you find that, you want to make sure you connect the dots through the coverage as well. So we find a storyline and then we go, okay, well, we got to see how that plays out in the game. So we'll find stats to back up that. And then we bring on all the pundits on the Wednesday, Thursday. And how do you feel about that? They go, yeah, we like that. We'll go with that, and that. And by Thursday, we'll know exactly what we want to do on that Friday. And then I'll write scripts. And then we go for it on Friday. And I'll kind of be doing the similar for Sunday, but Sunday's more of a reaction show. A half hour is reacting to the 5 games we've had prior to that. So it's a very different program. And that's what we also try to do. Make sure Friday is very different to Saturday, which is very different to Sunday. Friday's magazine, this is what you've missed in the rugby world. Saturday is like live rugby coming at you from all corners, and Sunday is let's reflect on what we've seen and let's round off the weekend. So that's what I try to do.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you kind of got into it and kind of how you got into the whole presenting side of things. And was rugby always the kind of goal, was to present? And what did you do before this sort of thing?
Rugby was always the goal. I always wanted to do rugby. I was brought up in a rugby family. My dad was a decent rugby player, and he could have gone better. My mum always says. He played at a club called St Mary's in Dublin, a very famous rugby club. So I was at rugby from a very young age. Like when I was a kid, Sundays would be spent at a rugby club up in St Mary's. We'd go there and we'd watch the game, and then all the adults, they'd boil up a load of pig's trotters and a bottle of something called Taylor Keith red lemonade and a load of crisps. And there used to be these plastic rugby balls with very rounded ends on them. And we'd be down in the hall if it was raining out in the pitch just for hours, just kicking a rugby ball around and then eating Pigs trotting.
Living your best life.
Oh man, I swear to God, have a pig's trotter next time you get a chance. Yeah, and so rugby was in my family. I went to a school called Blackrock College, which is, I get panned for saying this, is probably the most famous, most successful rugby school in Ireland. In fact, it's one of the most successful ones in the world. When I read those world, I think you guys put them actually, the top schools, top 10 schools.
Yeah, they were definitely up there. Yeah,
they are. I was probably, the other people that went to Blackrock College were Bob Geldof and Father Dougal from Father Ted. I they were probably better rugby players than me. But I loved it. And so when I was in school, I remember telling my careers the guidance person that I wanted to present Grandstand on BBC, and they laughed. And I was sent off to do work experience with some tea marketing company. But I started like you guys did, I guess, just kind of local radio stations, local newspapers, and trained as a journalist.
I was going to ask you a question a bit about obviously the modern media and stuff and how it's all changing and kind of, we obviously seeing social media become so important in people's lives, and you guys are doing this live, and I wanted to know how it's affecting you guys when you're presenting, and how much of an impact it's having on you guys when you are doing live events and stuff nowadays, having people being able to give opinions like that straight away. Is it an enhancement for your job? Is it a good thing, or is actually too much? Is actually you just have to just shut yourself off from it sometimes?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think it's I think if you have a thick skin, it's a very helpful thing to have, because certainly with BT, and sometimes Austin Healy gives me grief about this, you know. My opening for the Premiership final was all about, I didn't mention rugby. I don't know if you saw our coverage, but the opening was all about people at home who couldn't be at the game. I had photographs up at the mud and all sorts going on, because people are important. Fans are such an important part of every sport, but particularly rugby. So to hear their views is really important. That's why we do the Gallagher Premiership Tonight show. We started that last year. I was determined to have a show that fans could call us directly, which they do. And get their views across. So as long as you use it the right way, it's really helpful. But if you let it get, not everyone's going to love you, you know. Not everyone's going to love what you do. And I know that because I've been doing this a long time.
Talking about that noise on social media, now I want to sort of talk about that noise that's in your ear on a match day. Earpieces are a thing that we see all the pundits and presenters wearing on a match day. But a lot of fans and people who watch the game might not realise what's actually going on. Would you sort of enlighten us as to what you're hearing in your ear as you're presenting, and how hard it is to stay focused when you've got these words and these people shouting at you from gantries, etc.
Bananas, isn't it? If you know, it's crazy. So basically, what happens is, when we go on air, we have quite a tight running order. On BT, it can be quite loose. We're quite chatty and loose, you know, but you have to stick to certain times, because you're only given a certain time slot on television. Lots of other stuff has to come on. You've also got ads that have to go out at a certain time. If you spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on advertising slots, and it's meant to go out at 13 minutes past 7, you got to make sure it goes out at 13 minutes past 7. So these things they pay the bills, right? So they're really important. So there's lots of things like that go on, and also every shot. It depends. You have an option. I like my earpiece to be open, and open means I can hear everybody in the truck or wherever base is. Now in that truck, you'll have the person in charge, who is the producer, and they take care of all the editorial stuff, making sure you're not going too off course, making sure, Craig, don't forget, you want us to talk about that, make sure you get to that. Can you bring in Ugo? Can you bring in Lawrence or whatever? And then you've got your director, and he decides what shots actually go on screen. And he'll tell me, Craig, I have a lovely shot of fans. If you want to have a look now, someone eating an ice cream. Oh, I have a shot of this happening, a shot of attack. Oh, coming off the break, I'm going to give you this. Then I've got a PA, and what she is doing is counting. So anytime a little video VT comes up of maybe a bit of footage, she's going 30 seconds on this, 20 seconds on this, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She also counts me on air. So when she hits 0, I start talking. Also, at the end of a show, which is the hardest one to learn, we come off air we have to come off air at 5 o'clock. At 10 seconds to the 5 o'clock, she's on 10, 9, 8, 7. And I'm listening to her, making sure my words finish. So I have to say goodbye. I like to say goodbye on minus kind of No, 0.5. Just before this, I like to say goodbye, and I like to do that cheesy nod on 0, and that's how I do it. So you've basically 3 voices in your ear all the time. I split my ears from doing a lot of motor racing. I would have the gallery, the truck, basically all those people I mentioned in one ear. In my other ear, I've got the pundits and the commentators. So I can just tune out. If I decide not to listen to the gallery, which I do quite often, I go and do my own thing. I just kind of close that ear. It's a weird thing you learn to do. You just ignore it. So you have a lot going on, but without them, I would be lost. Not just for the information and the help and the guidance, but sometimes they're chatting about what they're going to have for dinner that night in the back of it. I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm talking to someone about whatever, and I'm like, oh, someone's going to have chicken corn. Nice. So you get really used to it. And the other weird thing is, if I'm in a public place and someone's talking to me, I'm also listening to the conversation 2 tables away. So be warned, you're really tuned into everything. It's a very strange and mainly useless skill.
So do you get quite nervous with all these kind of big events that you do? Like I've seen you do speaking at dinner parties. I've seen you do like big events like the Prem final and stuff and European finals. Do you still get nervous with doing these now, or do you feel like you're past that stage now in a sense of the nerves?
On television, I don't get nervous at all. Sometimes I get anxious if there's a big story breaking, if we're friends with all these clubs and the players and directors of rugby, but sometimes there's big stories breaking, be it a sales shark, usually a sales shark story. and I know those guys really well, and I really like Steve Diamond, but I know I'm okay, I'm going on air and I'm going to have a row with someone, but for the sake of journalism, I have to do this, and they respect that and I respect that, so that sometimes can make me a bit anxious. I don't get nervous. I get, like last Saturday for the Prem final, I felt a huge weight of responsibility, because this is usually a final where 80,000+ people are at. And for that day, 500,000 people watched that final, and that's rugby's big day out. And it was rugby's big day in. And we were the only ones bringing it to them. And I felt a big weight of responsibility to do that right. Yeah. I mean, look, lads, all I'll say is, it's funny, I was giving a talk in a school the other day, and all these people go, I want to work in rugby, but I don't think I could be a presenter. I was like, there's so many different jobs in our job. I mean, we must bring 60 people on site for a big outside broadcast for a big game. And that's the beauty about working in this industry. There's a space it's like the game itself. There's a space for everyone, all shapes and sizes and brains and motivation and egos. There's a place for everyone in it. And that's what's super about it,
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Craig. It's been really insightful and really enjoyed that. So thanks a lot for sharing your knowledge with us, and hopefully we'll inspire the next generation of presenters. Who knows? Yeah,
get involved. But wait till I'm finished. I still got some school fees to pay for 10 years.
Thanks very much, Craig, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Good talking to you guys.